Hope, it's a word we use often, almost too often. We say, I hope it gets better. I hope I can make it. I hope this works out. But very few people truly understand what that means, because hope is not passive. It's not some weak wish thrown into the air, waiting for luck to respond. No, hope is the disciplined belief that something better is possible even when you have no proof of it yet. It's the strength to keep walking into the unknown, not because you know where you're going, but because you refuse to stay where you are. And this is where it becomes powerful, because hope at its core is a psychological anchor. When you lose it, everything collapses. Your motivation, your resilience, your sense of purpose, they all start to decay. Without hope, there's no reason to get up, no reason to struggle, no reason to bear responsibility for the future. That's why when people fall into despair, they often stop trying altogether. They don't stop because they're weak, they stop because they can't see a reason to continue. The vision of the future disappears, and without that, the present becomes unbearable. That's why hope fuels perseverance. When you have even the smallest glimmer of hope, you can endure almost anything. You can face rejection, loss, and uncertainty because you believe there's still meaning in the fight. You believe that your efforts, even if they're invisible now, are building something, and that belief changes everything. It transforms pain into progress. It turns chaos into challenge. It allows you to walk through fire without losing yourself. Now, let's think about this carefully. Every human being faces suffering. That's an inevitable truth. Life is difficult. That's not pessimism. That's reality. The question isn't whether you'll suffer. The question is why you'll keep going through it. Hope provides that why. It gives you a story to hold on to when everything else falls apart. It tells you that your suffering can have meaning, that it can lead to growth, transformation, wisdom, and without that, the suffering becomes unbearable. When you see someone who keeps fighting, even after repeated failure, you're looking at someone who understands hope. They're not naive. They don't pretend the world is kind. They just understand that despair is a luxury they can't afford. Because despair accomplishes nothing. Hope, on the other hand, creates movement. It creates possibilities, and it changes how you perceive yourself in the face of difficulty. You see, hope isn't something external, it's an internal decision. It's the refusal to let your current circumstances define your ultimate destiny. That's why people who have nothing, no wealth, no privilege, no comfort, can still rise to greatness. Because somewhere deep inside, they decided to believe that things could be better, and that they could make them better. And this is the crucial part. Hope is not blind optimism. It's not the denial of pain. It's the courage to confront pain and still move forward. The person with hope looks at the storm and says, yes, this is real. Yes, this hurts, but I'm not done yet. They understand that life is a series of battles, and each one demands faith in something bigger than immediate results. Let's think of it in practical terms. Imagine you're climbing a mountain. The higher you go, the thinner the air gets, the colder it becomes, the more your muscles ache. You could stop, you could look down and say, this is too hard. But hope is what makes you lift your eyes and realize the summit still exists, even if you can't see it through the fog. That realization gives you strength. It doesn't make the climb easier, it makes it possible. Hope fuels perseverance because it keeps the mind anchored to possibility, not limitation. Without it, your energy collapses inward. You start convincing yourself that effort is useless. And the moment you believe effort doesn't matter, you begin to decay psychologically. You stop taking responsibility. You let life happen to you instead of happening through you. Hope reverses that decay. It pulls you out of helplessness and back into participation with life. It tells you you still have a role to play. But let's be honest, hope isn't automatic. It's cultivated. You must feed it through discipline, through action, through truth. You can't build hope on lies. You can't tell yourself everything's fine when it's not. Hope demands that you face reality completely, with clear eyes, and still choose to move forward. That's courage, that's maturity, and that's the foundation of strength. It's easy to hope when life is generous, when doors open easily, when people support you, when progress is visible. But that's not real hope, that's comfort. Real hope is tested in silence, in failure, in moments when no one claps for you. That's when you discover whether you believe in yourself or not, because hope, ultimately, is not just belief in the future, it's belief in your own capacity to face that future. And when you carry that belief long enough, it starts shaping your reality. Which brings us to the second truth: hope doesn't just fuel perseverance. It shapes reality itself. You might think that sounds abstract, but it's not. Our perception of the world directly affects how we act in it. If you believe there's no way forward, you stop looking for one. If you believe no one will understand you, you stop communicating. If you believe nothing will change, you stop trying. And in doing so, you create the very reality you feared. But if you believe there is a path forward, even if you can't see it, yet your brain begins searching for it. That's how human cognition works. What you believe shapes what you see, and what you see shapes what you do. So hope literally changes the map of your world. It turns impossibilities into probabilities. It allows you to see connections, opportunities, and openings that despair blinds you to. That's why two people can face the same problem. One sees disaster, the other sees potential. The difference isn't luck, it's perspective. Hope also builds emotional endurance. People who have it recover faster from setbacks, not because they feel less pain, but because they interpret pain differently. They see it as information, not punishment. When you have hope, you look at failure and think, this is teaching me something. When you lose hope, you look at the same failure and think, this is who I am. That small shift in interpretation decides whether you rise or collapse. Think about the greatest human achievements in science, in art, in social progress. None of them happened because people were certain of success. They happened because people hoped their efforts would matter, even if no one understood them at first. That hope guided them through doubt and criticism. It gave meaning to their sacrifice, and meaning is crucial. Without meaning, hope becomes hollow. You can't just tell yourself, everything will be okay. You have to know why it's worth the struggle. Hope attached to meaning becomes unstoppable. It gives purpose to your suffering. It tells you there's something valuable on the other side of this pain. And that's enough to keep going. Now, this doesn't mean hope guarantees outcome. You can hope deeply and still fail, but failure within hope is not the same as failure in despair. When you fail with hope, you learn, you adjust, you evolve. When you fail without it, you crumble. So hope doesn't remove uncertainty, it transforms it. It allows you to live with the unknown without being paralyzed by it. This is also why hope is dangerous, because it requires responsibility. If you truly believe your future can change, you can't hide behind excuses anymore. You can't say there's no point, you must act. Hope demands action. It demands movement, sacrifice, commitment. That's why many people abandon it, because it's easier to live in cynicism. Cynicism feels intelligent, but it's just disguised fear. Hope, on the other hand, is raw courage. It's standing in chaos and saying, I will build something out of this. And when you start to act on that belief, the world begins to respond. You notice new opportunities. You attract new people. You build momentum. That's how hope shapes reality, not by magic, but by action rooted in belief. You start living as if things can improve, and in doing so, you start making them improve. There's also something profoundly moral about hope. It's not just psychological, it's ethical. Because when you choose to hope, You choose to care. You choose to value the future enough to fight for it. You choose to believe that your life and the lives of others have meaning. That belief prevents nihilism from taking over. It keeps you connected to something beyond yourself, and that connection to purpose, to community, to possibility is what keeps societies alive. In fact, the most dangerous thing that can happen to a person or a culture is the loss of hope. That's when corruption, resentment, and destruction begin. Because when people no longer believe in a better future, they stop striving for one. They retreat into bitterness. They start tearing down instead of building up. Hope is what stops that decay. It's what reminds us that renewal is possible, that light can re-enter the world through effort, honesty, and faith. So yes, hope shapes reality. It builds civilizations. It fuels revolutions of the spirit. It transforms suffering into wisdom and defeat into strength. But it all starts internally. It starts with the decision to believe not blindly, but courageously. It starts with the choice to see life not as something happening to you, but something happening for you through your participation in it. And that's where you begin to see the deeper connection between perseverance and reality, between the will to continue and the ability to create meaning. Because when hope fuels perseverance, and perseverance shapes reality, you are no longer just surviving life, you're building it. You become the architect of your own transformation, guided by something stronger than circumstance, deeper than fear, and more enduring than failure. And that's what we'll continue to explore, how this force, this invisible power called hope, extends beyond survival and begins to redefine what it means to truly live